Huge welcome to WFO's Asia Pacific Summit 2024. I believe it's critical that we work together to implement offshore wind policy, industry, skills, social accountability by sharing our global experiences and our regional expertise.
アジア洋上風力サミットはアジア太平洋地域における洋上風力プロジェクトの中長期的な開発および商業規模での導入拡大に関する重要な共通課題に取り組むことを目的としており、今回は2023年5月に台北で開催された第1回に続くものです。
案件形成、それから研究開発、サプライチェーン、人材育成、これらを通してですね、日本で浮体式洋上風力含め、これから産業競争力強化のためにですね、日本の洋上風力の早期導入というものを実現していきたいというふうに考えております。
国が必要な調査を行う仕組みを創設すると、個別事業における順応的な取り組みと、その当該事業以外の後続事業も含めた順応的な取り組みを行っていくことによってしっかり環境保全を図っていくというような形を目指しております。
The impact on APAC has been very much mixed. We haven't seen developers completely withdrawing from the region, which is very encouraging, but instead really selecting the markets that they are keen in and doubling down.
So the floater overall was at a weight with equipment of 3,000 tons. The height of the floater was 45 meters, and the breadth, longitudinal breadth between each side buoy was about 80 meters. We had about more than 30 parts to assemble the Provence Grand Large project. Today we're down to less than 10 parts.
この4つの、小規模ウィンドファームの、撤去実施を行ったというところで、だいたい平米あたり 14.4 ぐらい付着しているっていう。
我々REASPの提言は漁業者と発電事業者との相互理解が最も重要であるとの視点に立って取りまとめたものでございまして、今後の洋上風力発電事業の案件構築の円滑化に資するものと考えております。
Philippine offshore will come and it will come fast. The environmental aspect in the Philippines is a very important one, and so we have to look to this beautiful environment. They have
Portugal is committed to developing this emerging floating wind sector, which will require for sure international cooperation and collaboration. We alone cannot tackle this challenge.
これ世界どこでも使えるような技術を作っていけばですね、コストも時間も節約できます。
洋上風車におけるこのインターフェースのこの難しさ、調整の課題、こういったものの共通理解を持つと、この利害調整を乗り越えたところに初めて得られる成果っていうのがあると思います。
There's huge potential of offshore wind in Japan. That's why we're all here.
I guess the biggest risk is we don't do anything. We have to start changing the way we look at the models for offshore wind industrialization and put supply chain first through localization, standardization, and automation.
Focus on what we want to do and how we can get there, and I think that will require a collaboration across all different stakeholders.
タイミング、情報、責任、この3つのギャップといったところにそのインターフェースリスクというのは定義づけ、特に注目して整理をして取り組む必要があるのかなと。
How to work together, developing the offshore wind industry here in the APAC region. It's a question of striking the right balance between local content requirements and then bringing all the benefits of global competition to move this industry forward.
We are sharing resources, infrastructure and supply chain across various countries.
Offshore wind industry has a big potential for even the smaller middle-sized local company to expand the business globally.
In terms of that, we need to be very flexible. So if we are very restricted in our own market and we cannot use any resources from other countries, that might have a huge effect on projects.
If we can get together, we can work together, we can be faster and stronger.
Floating wind is developing in Asia, in the Americas, in Europe,
Even other countries in the Middle East are looking at floating offshore wind, and so this development, this global approach is important for reducing its cost.
Which is called the loss mitigation. And I have added some examples how this was already achieved in the subcommittee since 2020. So the white papers are an ideal piece of work from the colleagues, which I really would recommend every one of you once again to read through.
We'd like to focus on where design risk can and should sit in any contracting structure.
Floating offshore wind cable systems are more technically challenging than fixed offshore wind, but with more learning and more thinking about the problems and more technical understanding of the problems, that risk is dramatically reduced.
And we found through our discussions that actually redundancy doesn't mean a more expensive mooring system. In fact, it possibly helps in terms of those other issues about handability, availability, installability.
And we intend as an organization to make sure that all the work we do benefits from a worldwide experience.
If we have, collaboration, all of the developers, OEMs, contractors, suppliers, all come together, we've got a much larger voice. And if we had a safety convention, how many people in this room would support that?
Eliminating not just human errors, but we are talking about how do we do safe by design? How do we eliminate the possibilities of having errors and having mistakes or incidents from the beginning, from the designing phase? We have to really dive in early as possible.
洋上風力の HSE 管理、プロジェクトの成否をこれ左右する重要なファクターとなるというふうに考えています。
To reduce the risk, I think the simultaneous operation matrix is a really key important topics I would like to highlight here.
お互いのコミュニケーションを良くする、信頼関係を構築するということでも非常に意義があったかと思います。HSE の文化を醸成し、作っていくと。
リスクアセスメントを一度で終わらせるわけではなくて、定期的に見直すというところが重要なことだと思っています。
作りやすいから買いますかね。使いやすいから買いますかね。車のデザインってタイヤからしますかね。それとも完成品からしますかね。時間がかかればかかるほどコストがめちゃめちゃかかると。
We want to do as many gigawatts that the industry want to do and countries target, then we will need to use as many supply chain that we can.
事前対策と、予防保全とあと事後早期復旧とこれをやっぱバランスよく考えるっていうことが必要になってくる。
金融機関もしっかりと巻き込んで議論に入れていっていただくことが重要じゃないかというふうに思っている次第でございます。
45ギガワットというまず見えているターゲットをどう実現していくのかということに対する一つの道しるべが見えてきているのかなというふうに思っているところです。
We explore all opportunities to bridge, to connect, and to facilitate. This year, we've had the pleasure of inviting numerous of candidates from the universities and master students to participate in our offshore wind student day. Networking is super important, and I think that's perhaps one of the highlights. And I hope you have enjoyed the company of industry peers over delicious cuisines. Sincerely thank our sponsors of the WFO Asia Pacific Summit as well as our student day for their generosity